This week, gaming news is a mix of great updates and one of the ugliest business implosions we've seen in a while. Ubisoft just face-planted so hard, their stock dropped 38% in 1 week. And the whole company is starting to look like it's being reorganized for sale in pieces. Meanwhile, Diablo 4 has a seasonal mechanic so good it basically needs to become permanent. No Rest for the Wicked just got a huge co-op update and a free weekend, and Path of Exile is doing a comeback event that'll get you logging back in before next league. Plus, we got a proper gameplay reveal for Fable, and yes, the chicken punt is back. Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and I dig into ARPG and gaming news so that you can spend more time playing games. Timestamps below to skip ahead to different topics. But before I move on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Walking Pad. I've had a standing desk for years, but a few months ago, I added a walking pad to my setup. The walking pad has this really cool foldable design to save floor space. Just unfold it and get moving. I used to try to take a walk every day to hit 10,000 steps, but sometimes the weather's bad, sometimes I'm too busy to make the time. But once I got a walking pad, hitting 10,000 steps a day is a breeze. Now, I've worked my way up to 20,000 steps a day. I've lost 20 pounds just by incorporating a walking pad into my life. No need for a gym, extreme dieting, or even taking any extra time out of my day. Just walking while working, while gaming, and while streaming, as my Twitch regulars can attest to. But it's not even about the weight loss. It's about taking care of our bodies. The human body isn't made to be sedentary. There's so many health benefits to walking and being active. And Walking Pad makes being active as easy as possible. When you're done with your daily steps, just fold it up and tuck it back wherever you want. Under your desk, your bed, a couch. It's got wheels at the front for easy maneuvering. So, click the link below to check out Walking Pad for yourself and join me on my fitness journey. Kicking things off with Diablo, not a whole lot to talk about this week. We're over a month into the season, and at this point, a lot of players are done and waiting for news about the test server for next season. But Season 11 will prove to be very difficult to beat. In fairness, I said the same about Season 10. I expected Season 11 to be a flop after the high of Season 10, but Season 11 has been the best season of D4 yet. In Season 10, Chaos Armor was a huge success, and so many people wanted it to stick around. This season, it's Sanctification that is filling the same role as the thing people want to keep. But here's the thing. Chaos Armor was something I didn't feel needed to stick around, and could actually be problematic in the long run. It added an extra item chase, which was great, but there's many ways to accomplish that. But Sanctification adds a new layer to crafting, which actually highlighted something that was missing from the game, and is such a welcome addition. And now, if we lose it, there's going to be a hole in the game. We need some kind of core mechanic like Sanctification to stay in the game. Beyond that, though, again, the expansion Lord of Hatred is set to address a lot of the stuff we want to see still in Diablo 4, but some quality of life suggestions for the future. Would be great to have the ability to import Paragon board setups. Imagine a page on the D4 website that lets you build out a Paragon board. Then you click a copy button, and it gives you a code, an alphanumeric code, and you just paste that inside D4 in your Paragon board, and your points will then auto-allocate. This would also allow build makers to share their Paragon board setups, because everyone knows the pain of having open on one page your max roll Paragon setup, and then you're going in game and you're clicking and you're clicking and you're looking and you're clicking and you're clicking and you're clicking. In the long run, though, I'm kind of expecting a Paragon 2.0. I don't think the current Paragon setup is bad, but I can imagine it being better. Like right now, it's serviceable, it does its job. But given so many other things in the game have been reworked and given a 2.0, it wouldn't surprise me for Paragon to eventually be on the menu. Now, with passive skills disappearing from the skill tree in Lord of Hatred, I can see passive skills being added into the Paragon boards, for instance. Now, there's one thing that's been gone from the game for a while that I have truly missed. Those free, earnable cosmetic sets that went away starting in Season 8, right? They're on the Battle Pass, but on the free track, so you could earn them by playing the game. I think they used to call them role-play sets. They weren't flashy, they weren't all flamboyant, but just being able to earn a full cosmetic set that all goes together, and having these things that are a little bit more grounded, down to earth, as maybe even a little kookier or silly as an option, right? Originally it was like some really basic peasant clothes. I enjoyed it, I miss it, but what about you folks? Do you miss the free sets? Sound off in the comments. Then in some no rest for the wicked news, the Souls-like ARPG just had its big co-op update a couple of days ago, and there's currently a free weekend ongoing, so do jump in with your friends. There's Twitch drops as well, free to farm, until January 26th. Now my understanding is that there will be no more wipes before release, so you don't have to hold off on the worry of losing your progress in a couple of months. Now's a great time to jump in and check out the game with up to 3 friends. If you've played before, but haven't played in a while, there's tons of changes and new content besides the co-op. If you've never played, while this is early access, it's super polished and already has enough content in it to basically be a full game. That said, the full 1.0 release will add 4 new areas, expanding the game quite a bit. And this is a game that the devs want to keep supporting for years post-release, so potentially even more content to come in the future. The game's a lot of fun, and it's a rare game that I feel excited to play outside of work purposes. The game is so charming in its style, the audiovisual design, it's a work of art. Even narratively, great characters, great story. There's a side quest that hits you like a punch to the gut. Really emotional beat that sells the tone of this world. There's a roguelite, repeatable dungeon for farming gear and testing your strength. Now, one thing to be aware of while playing now, there are no classes, and weapons have stat requirements, like you need 18 strength or 20 dex to use this weapon to its full potential. I actually like that they made this alteration. It used to be you must have this much strength to use this item. Now it's you can use it at a weakened capacity, which I very much appreciate because weapons are so important in this game. Weapons dictate your moveset, and I want to test out that moveset before committing to investing all those stat points. But all that said, this system is going away for launch, 1.0 launch, which is end of year or early 2027, I think. The game is moving to a class-based system. There'll be a ton of different classes, I think one for every weapon type, and there will no longer be these stat requirements for weapons. Now, if you're thinking about buying after trying the free weekend, be aware that the current discount on the game is the best you're going to get. This is the lowest the price will ever be, at least until after launch. And currently it's only available on PC, but they plan to launch 1.0 with console and PC. And couch co-op is something on their wish list, so it's likely not to happen by launch, but maybe in the future. And I'm going to have a deeper video covering this game coming out soon. Then in Path of Exile news, a Legacy of Phrecia event has been announced for PoE 1. It'll start on January 29th and run until February 19th. During this event, all 19 familiar ascendancies will be replaced with new ones. If you played the original Legacy of Phrecia, there will be balance changes since then. Idols are also returning with this event, but now that we have asynchronous trade, the idol experience should be greatly improved. Getting the idols you want will be easier than ever. They're also adding new modifiers for the Settlers League and Atlas memories while disabling breach modifiers. There'll be more surprises for players who played Phrecia back in the day. Every area will have a random number of map modifiers, scaling up with area level. And a lot of the modifiers that could brick builds are removed from the pool. Campaign bosses and some pinnacle bosses will also have some new mechanics, and all unique monsters will now enrage when at low life. Phrecia offers an alternate to the usual PoE endgame. There's no Atlas passive tree, instead you basically build your own Atlas with idols. This event should be a big win. It's great for GGG to do these revival league events to keep players coming back between major league releases. In other news, Ubisoft is once again making headlines, and once again, for unfortunate reasons. First off, the former Assassin's Creed franchise head is suing Ubisoft. Since 2010, Marc-Alexis Côté was a director on Assassin's Creed, working his way up to franchise head over time. He actually started at Ubisoft back in 2005, but in 2025, after 20 years with the company, Côté left Ubisoft. Why? Well, he alleges it was due to constructive dismissal. Basically, he didn't want to leave Ubisoft, but the company made him quit by doing an internal restructuring, eliminating his job position and offering him a lesser job. During the formation of the Tencent-backed Ubisoft subsidiary Vantage Studios, they were looking to hire a head of franchise for Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. Côté was not considered for the role, allegedly because the role was based in France rather than Quebec, where Côté lived. Instead, Côté was offered the role of head of production, which would report to the head of franchise. He was also offered to lead a creative house for a small Ubisoft franchise. Cote declined both offers because they would be a demotion, and he alleges that this was tantamount to firing him, so he should be owed severance pay, and he is now suing Ubisoft for 1.3 million Canadian dollars. That raises an interesting question for me. If a company fires you, they owe you severance, whereas if you quit, they don't owe you severance. But let's say a company demotes you and you quit as a consequence of the demotion, should you be owed severance? Because if not, then why wouldn't every employer just demote anyone in a high-paying position to, like, janitor rather than fire them? Legit question. I'm sure there's some answer to this. I just don't know anything about these laws and regulations, and it might even vary country to country. But that's not even the worst headline for Ubisoft this week. Just a blip, in fact. The bigger headline is that Ubisoft's share price dropped 38% this week. That brings it down a whopping 95% over the past 5 years, or 96% since its all-time high in 2018. In fact, I don't think the stock has been this low since 2011, 14 years ago. So why did it drop, you may ask? Well, that restructuring we mentioned. Ubisoft now publicly announced this restructuring, and that it included a 650 million euro write-down, basically an accounting hit from reevaluating projects and assets. As in, our assets are now worth this much less. And they're now forecasting an operating loss of about 1 billion euros for the fiscal year ending March 2026. Operating loss does not even include stuff like taxes or financing costs, so this is worse than a net loss of 1 billion. Now, this restructuring includes the cancellation of 6 games and the delay of 7 others, so that's a big part of the loss. The remake of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is unfortunately one of the cancelled 6 games, which came as a shock to many because rumors were circulating and really heating up that the game would shadow drop in the middle of January. Well, I guess it did. Ubisoft shadow dropped it right off their roadmap altogether. Man, does Prince of Persia deserve better. Now, this restructuring is seeing Ubisoft close several studios while dividing what's left into 5 creative houses. First, you have House Stark, House Lannister. No. So House 1, honestly, I wish they would have called them like House Stark and something. House 1, Creative House 1, will cover Ubisoft's biggest franchises, including Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, Far Cry. And Vantage Studios is part of House 1. House 2 will focus on competitive co-op shooters, which includes Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, and The Division. House 3 is for select, sharp live experiences like Brawlhalla, The Crew, For Honor, and Skull and Bones. House 4 will specialize in narrative-driven games like Rayman, Prince of Persia, Anno, Might and Magic, and Beyond Good and Evil. And House 5 will cover casual, family-friendly games like Just Dance and most mobile titles. And each of these houses will include multiple studios. Now, to top everything off, Ubisoft is also asking all staff to return to office full-time, no more working from home. Major morale killer. After COVID, a lot of studios adopted a hybrid model. Employees can work from home on some days and must come into the office on certain other days, generally for all-hands meetings and such. I know a lot of people that work in the video game industry, and this model largely works. Plus, a lot of studios have multiple offices from around the world working on projects, which requires people to connect with each other remotely anyway. And depending on the job you're doing, you do not need to commute to the office every single day to be productive, but I digress. Things continue to look increasingly dire for Ubisoft. These are the death throes of a company desperately trying to stay alive in one final erratic burst of energy. You don't make money if you don't make games. Canceling 6 games at once tells us that they barely even have the money to make games anymore. Now you can argue, well, maybe they canceled those 6 games because they were not happy with them. Well then, that's serious mismanagement, because you don't wait to be unhappy with 6 different projects and then suddenly reach a point where you cancel them all. No. When you see a company suddenly cancel multiple projects, it's because there's no more money to spend on developing them all, and the resources need to be immediately reallocated to whatever will make the most money as quickly as possible before the company goes under. And by splitting cleanly into 5 creative houses, Ubisoft has set itself up to be able to sell off different parts of its business if and when needed. It's pretty clear House 1 holds the most value, both in terms of money and sentimentality, to the leadership of Ubisoft. And in general, it does appear that the houses are kind of ordered in terms of rank of sales price. And given that the stock price of Ubisoft is in the gutter right now, some of these houses may end up being sold off at bargain bin prices. But what do you folks think will happen to Ubisoft? Will they rebound from this, stronger than ever? Or will they be parceled out and sold piecemeal? Lastly, in Fable news, we got a gameplay teaser and full gameplay reveal at Xbox Developer Direct this week, and damn is it looking good. Set to release autumn 2026, which I'm going to press X to doubt. I think it'll be delayed again. But it's releasing across PC, Xbox, and even PlayStation, all at the same time. No delay to the PlayStation launch. Thank you, Microsoft. It's looking like this Fable reboot is in many ways staying true to the spirit of the originals. Property management and part-time jobs are back. The humor is still there. I mean, if there's one single gameplay clip to sell a Fable fan on this title, it's punting a chicken. You'll be able to romance and marry any of the 1,000 NPCs in the game if you work hard enough for it. Overall, the game is looking great. Sure, it'll never be the same Fable as made by Lionhead Studios, but it seems like the folks at Playground Games understand what made the series special. There is one bit of disappointment though, and that's Playground's approach to a morality system. Acting evil will no longer transform you gradually into an evil-looking bugger. And the devs have said that they want to lean more into shades of gray morality with no objective good or objective evil. And I just can't buy into that. The game is called Fable. Fables have the classically cartoonishly good and evil caricatures. And there are objectively evil acts that we would commit in past Fable games. There's no debate on gray morality for a lot of that stuff. Now, there's certainly room for nuance. Not to say that you can't have any morally gray storylines within it. And individual NPCs in the world will have their own worldviews, of course. But things like saving innocent lives or acting generously are hard to ever paint as evil acts. One of the most iconic features of Fable was seeing your character become visibly evil or good based on your actions. If this is really the reason that that was removed, it's a puzzling decision to me. But how do you folks feel about that? Sound off in the comments. Now, in a unrelated but kind of related story, the developers of System Shock, Night Dive Studios, they've been talking about the difficulties of creating an immersive sim game. In an interview with FRVR, the CEO and technical producer spoke about how it's the kind of game that really comes together at the 12th hour. Quote, "It really wouldn't feel like the sum of its parts accounted for much until the last month of development, when it all clicked." They explained that making these kinds of games are a big risk. You gotta hope that it does indeed all come together in the end. And they also pointed out how it's a genre that just doesn't perform financially as well as other genres. It's a small, niche crowd of genre fans who may or may not be able to convince others to play if it's a good enough game. Compound all that with the fact that the last few major entries into this genre have been commercial flops, and it's easy to see why publishers are very wary of taking on any of these kinds of games. Now, Fable certainly isn't an immersive sim on the same level as a Deus Ex or Dishonored or a Thief, but it has some of the same shared DNA. Now, folks, do be sure to have checked out last week's video about Diablo 4's new game mode, The Tower, because that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters who make these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.